I'd like to call the February 2024 City Council meeting to order at 7:01 PM. If you'd all rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have Tyler Miller still is online. Jeanette Santiago is excused absence. Everybody else is present. Looking for an approval of the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as written.
Counselor Holmes makes a motion to approve the agenda as written. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Council President Greisen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. This is the place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to council regarding any matter not on the agenda and not scheduled for public hearing. Members of the public addressing council are requested to give their name and city of residence. Please try not to repeat questions to allow for more speakers. Speakers are to limit their testimony to 5 minutes, as we are limited to 30 minutes for total public comments. I got a clock to help you. We do have one, Beth Reisky. If you'd like to come on up to the microphone, I guess repeat your name and city of residence. Thank you. Yeah. Coming. After Earth Day.
Good evening. My name is Beth Reisky. This is Forrest. We're from Scappoose. And tonight we're here. I'm here as a board member for the Grant Watts parent organization, GWPO. And we would like to invite you to our upcoming annual spring auction. What is GWPO and what do we do? We're the parent organization in connection to the elementary school here, Grant Watts, that serves kindergarten through 3rd grade. We're comprised of parents, guardians of students at Grant Watts, and we're volunteers who are passionate about supporting our students, educators, families, and community. The Grant Watts Parent Organization's annual spring auction is the largest fundraiser event for our school. Currently, we are actively procuring donations and sponsorships to ensure that the event raises sufficient funds to provide enhanced classroom experiences, field trips, teacher allowances, equipment, supplies, and more that go beyond the regular school budget. Details of our event. The spring auction is taking place on Saturday, April 20th at the Columbia County Fairgrounds. Doors open for the main event at 4:30 in the pavilion. And we have childcare that'll be in the 4-H building starting at 4:15. All are welcome. However, the main event is adult only for 21 and over. In order to attend the auction, individuals must pre-purchase a $30 ticket for the auction. By pre-purchasing an entire table that seats 8 people for $250, you can secure who sits with you. Otherwise, seating is open and not assigned. Like last year, a licensed childcare provider will be overseeing Scappoose High School leadership students run an organized and fun experience for children who are daytime potty trained, ages 3 to 12. The cost is $10 per kid, and payments include 4+ hours of childcare, pizza, and snacks, as well as activities. Money specifically from childcare goes directly to the Scappoose High School leadership. Food at the adult-only event are catered through Beyond the Forest. Appetizers, dinner, desserts, and non-alcoholic beverages are all included in your ticket. There will also be beer and wine available for purchase at $5 per drink. We will have a silent auction, a live auction, fundraiser games, a photo booth, and more. It's a cashless event, so when pre-purchasing a ticket, you can register your credit card to be saved on file. You'll get a bidder number at the event for your purchases and auction winnings, and then at checkout, your card will be charged. Last year was our first year taking the event off school district property, and it was a wonderful success. We anticipate that this year's event will be just as enjoyable. Overall, it's a beautiful evening celebrating our wonderful school community. You all got an invitation with printed information with details, how to donate, become a sponsor, and also to purchase tickets. We hope to see you there, April 20th.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Forrest. Any more public comment, Susan? Nothing online? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. I'm looking for a consent agenda approval. We've December 11, 2023 City Council work session minutes, December 11th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes, January 27, 2024 Council retreat minutes, February 5. Oh, I put too many on there. January 2027 Council retreat minutes, February 5, 2024 Council work session minutes, and February 5th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Jacobs, yes?
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Counselor Jacobs. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Counselor Holmes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Before we go, I wanted to do this during public comment since we still had a little bit of time left there, but I wanted to do a special something real quick. We are having one of our most experienced and knowledgeable council members leaving us after this meeting. And in special recognition of Megan Greisen for outstanding service, dedication, and commitment to the city of Scappoose, Oregon, counselor from January 2017 to September 2020, and then council president from October 2020 to February 2024. Thank you, Megan Greisen. Appreciate it. Bill, please go ahead. Yes, please.
Okay. There are 3 little ones here who will have to go home to get ready for bed and school tomorrow. So just real quick. My husband Stephen and I grew up in Scappoose, and in 2015 we had our second child and decided living in Hillsborough was just not where we wanted to raise our family. So we decided that I would stop being a school teacher in Beaverton and we would move back home to Scappoose. So we bought a home here just above Veterans Park. And it was so much at once. I lost my identity as a teacher. Now I'm staying home with these babies and felt a little lost. But that first year, I started a local moms group with a friend, and there were several dozen local Scappoose moms that started to join. And I just felt like there was a need for a voice representation for young families. And I was encouraged in 2016 to run for city council. And I felt like it was the perfect fit. I could still be home during the day, but exercise my brain as an adult in the evening. I was sworn in 2017 by Betty Huser. I thought that was a great privilege. Michael Sykes was the city manager, and Scott Burge was the mayor. And soon after that, within the first year, we had our third child, Henry. And I only missed one council meeting. I only skipped one to have him before returning. During my tenure, I just want to thank my husband and my children and our parents because they made a lot of sacrifices for me to be so engaged. You know, mom has another meeting, you have to go online, another meeting, read my binder, pick up, do all the things. They got pretty used to it, but it was a lot of juggling of who's going to watch the kids, who can put them down. Oh, my husband's out of town. What am I going to do? But it was always a priority that I was sitting up here. So I really appreciate them for that. I'm very grateful. My most treasured moments were coordinating and leading field trips with our local school children. That just kind of was the perfect balance of being a teacher and doing city council. I loved doing the job fair with you last spring. I thought that was really fun. Being the Scappoose School District liaison kind of satisfied my itch to still have my foot in education. So a lot of the people that were here when I started are not here other than those four. So thank you for letting mom do this job. I really appreciate it. And right before this meeting, literally half an hour before, we took our last picture as a family in front of our home, in front of above Veterans Park. So a lot of emotions tonight, a lot of goodbyes. So this is just our next goodbye for the evening. So thank you guys, and I love you.
Yes, thank you guys. They never come to our meetings. All right, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Megan. Moving on to another fun event. We've got a If I Were Mayor contest. Anybody here for the If I Were Mayor contest? Is Lila here today? Not Lila here. Okay, we've got a fourth, fifth grade. Lila is our winner for our fourth and fifth grade. She provided a poster of what she would do if she was mayor, and had a little essay about it and explaining her poster. She did a really good job. It's amazing how much these all sound alike and what they want for Scappoose, and I really appreciate that. So Lila Ramos is our winner for that, and she'll have her certificate here and a gift certificate to Fred Myers, and her presentation, her poster will be sent on to the state level contest. So appreciate Lila. Thank you. And I'm going to take her, and my wife will take her out to lunch. Hopefully all of us or a lot of us together, but we will take you out for lunch as well. And now we're on to the fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade level. We have four here. They were all very good. They're in your packet, so I appreciate, you all can read them over time. They're all very in-depth and very long and a lot of good things. And so this was a very hard decision. The board council looks at them all, and we try to make a decision here. So what we have today, we have basically 3 runner-ups and 1 winner that will be sent on to the state level. It was very close, but our winner today is Catania Fenstermaker, her essay on what she would do if she was mayor. And is Catania here today? Nope. Okay, thank you. I will go meet her in person and give that to her. And then the 3 runner-ups, I mean, they were all so close. There's things in here that I've written down that I am going to definitely follow up on and do, because I kept looking, we want more playgrounds and more play structures and stuff like that. No, it was all about keeping plastics out, better water, things that our city is working on and we want to work on, including Catania's project she recommended. And I want to take her up on that and have kids get involved in city things, go out to the wastewater treatment plant and learn more about it, or go to the police department, the fire department. I'm sure they do that at times, but we'd like to get involved a little bit more and let them know how the city works and where, the taxpayers' dollars go and why we're here. So I really wanted to thank everybody here. And so the 3 runners up, we got, if you're here, please come up. Abel Scholl, Remy Lane, and Conrad Hages. We have had one of ours advanced on and win the $500 award with I think when she was a 7th grader. So I recommend to stay involved in that and keep doing it and get your friends out too. And let's try to get another state winner. But thank you very much for doing that, guys. Appreciate it. I have your emails and phone numbers, and I think you might have mine too. And we'll try to set up a lunch coming up shortly. Thanks. Okay. Next, resolution number 24-02. A resolution declaring a vacant position on the city council. What's that all about?
And at a few hundred
Yeah.
yards. And
Get there.
please
Okay,
don't.
am I supposed to read this whole thing? Okay, we just have a vote to accept how this works. Okay, I am looking. Okay, this is Larry's interim city manager, Larry Lehman. Let's see what you got.
You know, you don't have to vote yes.
That's-
I mean, you could keep her here for a little while.
Yeah,
This basically declaring the vacancy so we can begin the process, obtain a replacement.
I'm looking at here, are resolved that council accepts Council President Megan Greison's resignation. We declare her position open and she'll be filled by appointment as provided by law and shall take effect upon this passage and approval. Do I just sign? We don't need do we need a vote to accept?
Yes.
I'm looking for a motion to accept the resolution declaring a vacant position on the city council.
Mr. Mayor,
It's Councilor Jacobs.
I so move that we adopt resolution number 24-02, declaring a vacant position on the city council for the city of Scappoose.
A motion to accept. Any seconds?
Second that.
Councilor Holmes seconds the motion. Resolution number 24-02. Any question or discussion? Other than saying again, thank you very much, Megan. Appreciate it. It was really helpful having you here this past year, getting up to speed. It really made it a lot easier, and Scappoose is definitely better off for having you on the council. So thank you. Seeing any more discussion, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Just for the record, we're looking at we'll look probably in the next month, next couple of weeks to look for the next city manager, or to put the applications out for a new counselor. That goes into effect tomorrow. And so hopefully within about a month, we have it kind of set for April, first meeting in April to do the interviews and name another counselor. Okay, thank you. Too many positions we're trying to hire for. Okay. Now on to this one that I make sure I don't mess this one up. Back to the clock. Okay, we have a first reading. Ordinance 917, adoption of the 2024 Scappoose Parks, Trails, and Open Spaces Plan and associated comprehensive plan text amendments. Tonight, we're joined by Community Development Director Lori Joseph Oliver for our first reading. And so I'm going to gavel this. The public hearing is now open. I will read the public statement. I am calling this public hearing to order to consider an application for a legislative land use decision. Testimony and evidence must address the criteria that apply to the decision as described in the staff report or to the criteria the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Persons may speak only after being recognized by the mayor and must come forward to the microphone and state their name and city for record. Only testimony that is relevant to the application will be considered. The failure to raise and clarify an issue to afford all parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on the issue. The order of the hearing will be the staff report, then the applicant's presentation, then other opponents or proponents, then opponents, then rebuttal by the applicant, then a staff response. Thereafter, the hearing will be closed for consideration of the matter by the council. So we are now ready for our staff presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight I'll provide a brief opening statement that'll point out the applicable approval criteria and where the findings of fact can be found within the Planning Commission staff report. And lastly, I'll provide the staff recommendation. Once I've covered that, we do have Darcy Rudzinski with us tonight from MIG. She's a consultant who helped the city put the plan together. And she will be doing a short presentation on the plan as well. So the city is proposing adoption of the 2024 Scappoose Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan and associated comprehensive plan text amendments. On February 8th of this month, the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on the request and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the application to council as presented. So the last Parks Master Plan that was adopted was from 2017. Since then, there have been a number of changes that prompted the city to update the plan sooner rather than later. Some of those changes include acquisition of new park property, an increase in the number of people using city parks, just the aging of existing park amenities throughout the city, and then just a real emerging sense lately of community priorities around parks. And so one of the items that this plan did update that we feel will be really helpful to council and staff is there is a prioritization consideration. And that's on, well, I apologize, I don't have the number for this packet. I can look that up for you later if you need to. The decision-making criteria, though, outlines a series of considerations to keep in mind when you're deciding which projects to fund. And so the criteria functions as a two-step filter, basically. So the first filter is, how does a potential park project advance the goals of the park system? And so the goals mentioned in this first filter reflect or are reflective of the 6 comprehensive plan goals that are recommended for adoption.
Finding of facts, is that what you're referring to?
No, I was looking at the decision-making criteria for prioritization of projects.
Thank you.
The first filter, again, is keeping in line with the 6 comprehensive plan goals. The second filter asks, does the project advance the stated goals of the council and the community? Those goals were developed through a community engagement process that included a community-wide online survey, an interactive event at the annual town meeting, several pop-up events through work sessions with council and the planning commission, and then with the Parks and Rec committee, who served as the technical advisor group for the plan. So this version, the 2024 Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan, will be the Parks and Rec element of the city's comprehensive plan, and it prepares Scappoose to address its parks and recreational needs for the next 20 years. So the criteria related to amendments to the comprehensive plan are contained in Scappoose Development Code Chapter 17.22. Those findings can be found on pages 200 through 201. Procedures for legislative land use decisions are contained in Chapter 17.160. Findings are on pages 201 and 202. The applicable statewide planning goals are on pages 202 through 203. The applicable Oregon Revised Statute findings are on pages 203 and 205. The applicable Oregon administrative rules are on pages 205 through 207, and the applicable goals and policies from the comprehensive plan are on page 207. Staff does recommend that council approve the application and adopt ordinance 917 as presented. And again, we do have Darcy here tonight who could present her PowerPoint slides for us tonight. And Darcy, we did make you a presenter, so you should be able to pull that up.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Am I coming through loud and clear, Lori?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I had a little technical difficulty with my my headset, so I wanted to make sure everyone could hear me. Good evening. I'll take a moment to share my screen here. I got the packet up instead of our, let's try this again. There we go. Right. Hopefully everyone can see the screen. Start the show. This is going to look very familiar to those of you that attended the work session back in December. Have not changed many of the slides, so I will try to keep this brief, as I believe most of you may be able to give this presentation yourself at this point. So we'll keep it going. Again, my name is Darcy Brzezinski. I'm with the planning and urban design firm MIG, and I led the consultant team, was the project manager on the consultant side, and helped the city and the community develop the plan that's before you tonight. So as Lori mentioned, there were several things that were driving the development, the update of your existing Parks and Recreation plan, some of which are on this slide here. Obviously, conditions have changed since 2017 when your plan was adopted. So we wanted this plan to, of course, reflect current conditions. And we wanted to make sure it included all the park property that you have. You've acquired some in the intervening years. Consider areas that are being looked at for future urbanization. So consistency with your 2050 look. And then really importantly, create a capital improvement plan and develop a investment strategy, as Lori mentioned, for futures decisions. So the planning process, much of the work was achieved within a year's time frame, really summer 2022 through summer 2023, with the very important, develop the plan, come up with the CIP, and this last phase in the fall and winter. So not going to talk too much about the earlier phases. For sure could talk more about that if you have questions about the planning process, but do want to spend a little bit more time on the methodology for assessing your system. The basis for which many of these options before you are based on. So these are some of the park planning tools that we use to determine, how adequate the system was for your particular community. Started early on with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenge kind of phase where we walked every site. My team did, the parks designer, the director of my company's Parks and Recreation discipline, staff, really looking at depth of how the parks were being used, what attributes they had, whether that be natural or physical, etc. The gap analysis is also a standard tool for assessing park really availability. How easy are parks to access by foot. Level of service, again, another measurement of sufficiency of the amount of parkland a community has. And we learned through this process that Scappoose was interested in improving on your existing standard to set an ambitious target for your park system, but something that was supportable. Public outreach, community feedback really guided this process. Here are some of the steps we took, some of the things we did with city staff to really make sure that we understood the community that we were planning for. These are a whole plan summary, or a whole summary of these events are in Appendix B of your plan, so you can get a little bit more in depth into some of the public response that we had to some of these events and activities. And again, the Scappoose Parks and Recreation Committee really helped with these activities and were on the ground, if you will, helping us get this interaction. What's not on this slide was also some stakeholder interviews we did with over a dozen participants, folks who had real passion for parks, whether that be youth sports or park users, folks that are really interested in preserving natural areas. So we got a good cross section of folks providing us more in-depth comments through that stakeholder interview process. So from that, we definitely came away with some important themes for the community. Chapter 3 is the needs assessment, and that really kind of breaks down by topic some of the opportunities for improvement, some of the things that folks really cherished in the community. We clearly heard that one of the biggest assets Scappoose has is really that proximity to nature. Being able to get and enjoy nature very easily was important. Sort of the more passive use, think trails and strolling, hiking. And then there was the active kind of piece, that there was kind of a need for more youth activities, a need for more facilities, particularly for a little older kids. So we heard that too. So, with all the kind of baseline information, voices from the community, we get to the recommendations. And one of the things that was important to do was to review the policy foundation for your park system. And clearly you had some really good goals and policies in the existing plan. We updated those, revisited those, expanded those to have more policies along with the goals, and then one step further, even with some action items. So let's see. That led us to the recommended park system itself. So kind of translating what was important to the community from the policy framework to really how that translates down to the physical sites and desired improvements. So the recommended park system is nicely shown on figure 4-2. That's a map of the proposed system. Let's see what else I was going to say here for you. So these, each of the parks then have a vision. They have a stated vision. This is how we envision as a community this park functions for us. Each of the parks in the proposed plan have desired amenities, things that go along with those parks. And some of those things are aspirational. They're not there today, but they go well with improving and enhancing the sites. And all those listed items may not actually transpire within the life of the plan. So long range plans, we typically look at a span of 20 years plus. But we know that it's not going to be 20 years before that plan, this one in particular, might be updated. So some of those things are aspirational, but defining them and articulating them in a plan really helps clarify what the community is aspiring to accomplish. So one of the things just to highlight, so each of these parks has all those kind of ideas articulated in the plan. Grabhorn property really spurred a lot of the conversation during this planning process. Clearly, it's a special opportunity, and it was the subject of very many planning meetings. The idea with Grabhorn, which we felt was really kind of a premier opportunity, is to really make that park part of a kind of crown jewel for your community, if you will. So together with veterans and Chief Concomly, having this idea that those are connected both physically, but also have different types of activities between the three parks, but they can really act as a key central area for gathering for Scappoose. So now that you have all this information, up-to-date documentation on what the community wants, how do you make it all happen? And that really is where this plan starts becoming a tool for decision making. So we worked with staff to create a cost model to update the capital improvement plan. A little bit of what the cost model can do. I mean, it's a flexible tool. It can be easily updated. And a few things that it doesn't do. It isn't a magic 8-ball per se, but it does give the city another tool to make decisions. Lori mentioned the decision-making criteria, which I quickly found out was on page 121 of your packet, if you're interested in looking at that. But it helps in the near term come up with this phased implementation strategy. The recommendation in the plan really is to focus on Grabhorn first, to take advantage of the potential grant funding, state grant funding, and be able to use the purchase of the land as a match for grants, any grants awarded. So you'll see that's the short-term check, and then the other package of improvements for each of the parks that are detailed in the plan, start coming online a little bit later. This is just an illustration of how much of the general fund is expended on parks based on past years' expenditures. Averages 13% of the general fund over the past 10 years. So parks and recreation obviously are just one aspect of your community, and it somewhat competes with other necessary public services. So the CIP plan is an Appendix C. It's the total capital costs needed to acquire, develop, and improve your parks facilities. It totals up to 20.4 million, which is a lot more than the city has available currently to spend over the next 20 years. Again, this is just an illustration of that fact, and kind of breaks down the three categories of park spending. The blue box, again, is just an explanation of how developed land will increase the cost of operations. So as you're planning for these parks and you're starting to bring them online, that also increases the cost of operations, which probably makes sense to you. And finally, in Appendix D, there's some definitions of other funding sources. Funding is going to be an important factor of fully implementing your plan. So that's something that you'll need to be aware of, and know that there are some limitations on the aspirational aspects of the plan without the funding to actually make them happen. I believe that concludes my presentation, and I am here to answer questions as I can. And go back to any slides as you would like, but I'll go ahead and stop sharing now.
Thank you, Darcy.
I have one question, if it's okay. Kind of looking at the project cost estimates phasing by site, page 123, and she had just mentioned, Grabhorn's the only one under short term. And I mean, we can change this and change it as we go and see that we need to shift this one to here. We got an opportunity to get one done a lot sooner. So this helps us, but it doesn't stick us exactly doing what is in this plan.
That's exactly right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Council Jacob.
so following along that, while I understand this is a recommendation, it feels a bit uncomfortable to say let's adopt it as is, given the fact we just had a meeting about Grabhorn a couple weeks ago, and our council was informed, and we recognize and accept the fact that it's a park we can't financially fund.
Mhm.
So it seems odd that we would still classify Grabhorn as like a short term, given that we're like not going to really do much with it at all. And I'm just curious if then should we amend where that park should land in this recommendation so that it can be a little bit more accurate representation of where we are today?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess what I would say is that this is a 20-year planning document, and it is anticipated that other, opportunities could present themselves, et cetera. My understanding was, while there wasn't an appetite to say absolutely yes, go out for the grant right now and secure a loan to complete the project,
but that it's not off the table, and that there would be likely some way that once this is adopted, that Council and Parks and Rec would continue to look at Grabhorn and decide what might make sense in the short term versus looking at how can we do a larger project, you know, still potentially within 5 years. So I don't, this is a guiding document. Thank you, Dave. This is a guiding document and wouldn't necessarily tie the city to any of these buckets of short-term, midterm. But it is setting policy for the city and providing guidance. And Dave might have additional.
Yeah, so this park is still the focal point. We, as mentioned, we know the grant is still there. We want to keep our eyes on it. We're not taking them off. We just had the Parks Committee meeting last Thursday in which we talked extensively about this. There's still a big desire by that group to move forward in any fashion that we can. What we had talked about in our last meeting and talking about with the parks is they would really like to have a joint session. So after this plan is adopted, we would all come back together in a pretty extensive work session and use this as a tool to say, do we follow this? Do we modify? Do we tweak? This isn't gospel per se. This is a roadmap to build from that gives you kind of some guidelines and some estimated dollars so that you can make those decisions moving forward. Because if somebody changes and comes along and doesn't understand, oh, if I want to do something at said park, it's going to cost it. I mean, you know what I mean? So this is just really a tool that we can work from, but it isn't necessarily what we have to do to the T. So yes, we're going to build from this. This isn't stone. Hopefully that's clear.
I do think this allows us to move though and get going on some and get quotes and get costing of various ones as we get together and prioritize what we like to see done. And we'll see those, how much things cost. Well, we can afford this or no, we can't afford that. It is important to me though, funding's very, Grabhorn is talked about in this as kind of the one park, that we talked about. So I do want to address that again and bring it up in maybe this work session and see before we do give up on Grabhorn, maybe for the years, that we really do look at it closely if there's opportunities there, whether it's the big go out for the $3 million loan and do the whole park, or if it's do a portion of it. I think this is important to get us moving in the right direction though.
I wouldn't be hung up on that. It is something that we will build from. And the other thing that this is helpful for is if you don't have it, you can't apply for the grants. These parks have to be in this plan to be able to move forward with that. And knowing that Grabhorn is probably the first choice of any park that we're going to pursue that, it's good to still have that recognized as a priority. They will look at that. The other thing is this will dictate our SDCs. And so after this plan is adopted, we'll reevaluate our SDCs and make sure that they're on par with the CIP. There's a lot of value to this that's going to move us forward.
Okay, so basically that is the staff presentation. Applicants present their case. That was it, okay? So now if there's anybody that would like to speak, we are in a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak as a proponent, am I at that stage now? Okay, any proponents? Seeing none? Yes, if you'd like to speak, yes. Could you come up so they can hear you online, just speak into a microphone? Thank you.
My name is Joshua Rodriguez, and I live here in Scappoose. I guess my question, just reviewing the information and hearing it, was there was 900 responses to a survey that was sent out. How was that sent out, and where was that, and how was that done?
Let Darcy, since she was kind of involved at all, just kind of go over real quickly the surveys that we've done.
Yes, it was. I'm going to have to remind myself of how that was sent out. I do know that it was made available electronically through the city's website, and some of the all of the events that we had that I showed up on the slide, the pop-up events and things that happened in the fall of 2022. There was always the opportunity to either weigh in on some of the questions in person or fill out a survey. I know that a hard copy survey was made available if folks wanted to respond via hard copy. And then, of course, the link to the survey. I mean, it was up for several weeks. I believe the city extended it. And I could find that information out. I believe it's also summarized. Well, I know it's also summarized in the public involvement appendix to the plan.
Yeah, on page 130 and on, it shows about the pop-up event, the surveys, questions, how many people answered, the online survey, some pictures. We did have at our town meeting last April, we had a big portion on parks and talking about it, and the citizens talked about what they want, what they're willing to spend for. And so those, I think, really help design the master plan. But going forward, we're still going to involve community on the priorities because all these are going to cost. So we are going to want to get involved again with the community through these workshops and determine what exactly the city needs and what we can afford. And so moving forward, I think we are going to ask for more input. Thank you, Joshua. Okay. I'm moving on from proponents. Are there any opponents that would like to speak? Guessing against the Parks Master Plan. Seeing none, then I don't think we need a rebuttal by the applicant. And then a staff response. Anybody have any?
I don't have any additional response. Happy to answer any questions you all have.
We'll move on to questions by City Council. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, I'm going to close the hearing. And we will close it for deliberations. Now, what we're looking at is potentially to approve, this is the first reading. So we're looking to approve and adopt the findings in the CPTA 1-23 Planning Commission staff report dated February 1, 2024, and adopt ordinance 917 as proposed or as amended. And so I'm looking for any approval or motions.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion. I move that council adopt ordinance 917 as presented.
Councilor Holmes makes a motion to adopt.
Wait, maybe I have to make the first one.
This is two-parter. We first have to adopt the findings.
Yeah, if you want to
Yes.
well, it's all together in the motion. I think
Yeah.
she saw it. Yeah.
So I'll move that council adopt ordinance 917 approving the application and adopt the findings in CPTA 1-23 Planning Commission staff report dated February 1st, 2024.
Motion by Councilor Holmes. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Councilor Jacobs. Any discussion? I can go ahead and
So at this point, you'll just read the title of the ordinance, state that it's on first reading, and then we'll come back March 4th for the second reading and the vote.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept ordinance number 917, an ordinance adopting the 2024 Scappoose Parks, Trails, and Open Space Plan, amending the inventory section of Scappoose Comprehensive Plan, updating the Parks, Trails, and Open Space goals and policies of the Scappoose Comprehensive Plan, and replacing Appendix K of the Scappoose Comprehensive Plan. All right, and then we will leave it at that, and we'll come back at our next meeting for our second reading, potential adoption.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, we are on to Dave's comes back. We've got number 5, Mercury TMDL, Public Works Director Dave Sukow.
Hey, Mayor and Council. Okay, so I'm going unscripted here off the memory on a few of these things. So back in 2021, about 3 years ago, almost to the date, we were notified by DEQ via the letter in your packet that we were identified as a DMA for mercury testing. In the lower Columbia Basin, there are mercury levels that are detectable, not detectable within our boundaries. But since we're in the basin and the potential source of those mercury levels, They recognize the city of Scappoose as somebody who can help them manage that. Excuse me. So by doing that, we had to create the plan that's attached in there. It's basically a series of a matrix of requirements that were set forth by DEQ for us and the EPA. I'm not going to dive into those in great detail. They do create criteria for us to have to do to manage mercury. This comes in atmospherically in the rain, and so it's treated through stormwater via our filtration and our stormwater systems and street sweeping, and just means that we have to help do that. The other thing is through management of construction, runoff from construction sites and things within our construction standards will help to mitigate that. And filtration and things of any kind of runoff. So in a nutshell, there's no action for you to take tonight. This is just FYI, if you will, just notifying you that these are something that staff is going to be working on for years to come. We have some deadlines in another week or so of notification. So our first year requirements are basically to get this message out. This plan will be on our website. There will be a form created that will be on there that if somebody in the community has a concern or complaint, they can file that to us and then we'll follow up on it. Then next year will be our first year of reporting success. And then every year thereafter, we have to report back to DEQ on findings. The only way that they can measure success is downstream monitoring over the long term. There's no way, like I said, within our boundaries that even measure it at a level to know if we're assume we will be. Hopefully we will be. And that is about it. The document was accepted ago, and that's in your packet, sorry. We also were notified that this is going to be coming for us to do a water temperature TMDL thus foreseeable future. They haven't given us notification officially or dates, but we're going to have to recreate a document similar to this for water runoff. To answer any questions you might have.
You're doing this annually. I mean, you're doing this all the time. Is this good for 4 years, 5 years? Is there a
This is life. As I understand it, this is just part of our work now.
beginning? Continue. No, thank you very much for getting this in time. Looks good, and I'm sure you will continue to meet all the requirements they ask of us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, in your packet, we're moving on to number 6, council liaisons. Every year we do have about 10 groups that we like to send counselors to get feedback and input or get information from different committees. Columbia County, Councilor Tyler Miller has been going to the meetings. He's to go and listen and report back to us. And if we have anything he wants to present, the council will allow him to go and present something. Or if they have a question, they'll ask him and he'll come back and get the information. So every year we like to update these. So I have them here. I've made a few changes. Councilor Jeanette Santiago is going to move over to Economic Development Committee, and Andrew LaFrenz will move over to Traffic Safety, and Councilor Marissa Jacobs will go to Parks Committee. And we still are looking for a couple. We'll have an opening at the Historical Society, and right now I will cover schools, but we will have a new counselor here in the next month or so, so we may revisit these. Some are during the days, some are nighttime, so as we get together and check everybody's schedule. But anybody have any questions on those?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor President Grayson.
I know that approving these upcoming council goals for the new year hasn't taken place yet, and usually the liaison positions sort of match what our goals are. So I was just curious about the remaining liaison position for the 911 communications. That wasn't a goal we had put on the list for this year. Again, you haven't approved those. I was just curious what that role looks like moving forward. And maybe Brian Jensen could speak to our involvement with 911 communications or a staff presence at those meetings, if it is allowed or not, or if the information solely would just be coming from Councilor Miller and the purpose of that.
I do believe that Sergeant Larson is representative?
He is the advisory board member for Scappoose. And so I would say that's a voting member. He's a member of their advisory board, so he can,
I think that's all the.
yeah. The liaison again, would be gathering information, coming back and just reporting back to us. I would think, yes, Tyler, Counselor Miller, if you'd like to.
Yeah, so the police department's role with 911 is to sit on the statutory advisory committee, which is required under ORS 403. That is completely different than what the liaison position does. And I have expressed that I believe it's still important because of the bond issue that's coming up with 911. So as the mayor had already stated, it's basically listening and bringing information back to council. And I do think that this will be a hot topic, given some of the context too. So at some point, council is also going to have to decide if they support that bond or levy. And so I do think that at least through that process, it is important to keep a liaison position for 911.
Any other questions?
I would just like to add to that if I can. Looking at our team agreements in regards to council member conduct, number 2 says not make assumptions other than assuming positive intentions. And I always try to do that. And I'm hoping and I'm using my assumptions with the best of intentions in regards to Counselor Miller's presence at those meetings. Unfortunately, that role for him has been a little gray for other special district members. I'm not saying for myself, but again, I'm assuming that he has nothing but positive intentions representing the city. I have responded in that manner to the special districts and people that have approached me about his presence and his liaison role. And so I'm hopeful that he can bring back needed information for you to hear.
I appreciate it. And I, with all of these, have talked with Counselor Miller about what we expect and desire out of that. And I agree that I do believe he has positive intentions. And so I do feel that he can proceed in that role. And we'll see as things go on this year, if that bond has come up. I mean, it's going to be important to have somebody there to be able to report back what's been going on in their meetings. And I would encourage Sergeant Larson to as he goes to those advisory committee meetings, report back with a report or something of anything he sees in those as well. Anything else? So do we need to make an approval, a motion to approve these liaisons? I do look at them again here in another month or so once we do have a new counselor, just to verify that they all still fit and will work. But at this time, I think I'm looking for a motion to approve these liaisons.
I'm not on the list, but I'll approve it.
Mr.
Mayor.
This might be your final.
Oh.
Well, there might be one
I
more.
move to approve the list of council liaisons as presented.
Council President Greisen makes a motion to approve the council liaisons as presented at this time. Any second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor LaFrenz. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those opposed or all those in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving on. Number 7, motion carries. Council rules. Do we have legal counsel Ashley Driscoll online? Okay, I'm sorry. Being that this going back to a work session, can we continue into the work session? Okay, council rules. It looks like City Manager Larry Lehman will handle this.
You have those in your packet there. There's, I guess we'll just preliminarily give them to you to see. We've outlined in red changes being made and so forth. Asking you to review those. And then if you've got any questions, we'll try to answer them or modify those for final adoption.
You may not know, but what prompted this? I mean, is this something they work on throughout the year and things we're looking to change all the time? I mean, Isaac. Assistant to City Manager Isaac Buttman, if you'd like to step up.
So this was actually prompted by legal counsel. So they wanted to review some things. There's quite a bit of redlining. I hadn't really prepared much. I can pull it up and try to answer some questions, but there were some inconsistencies with our practices versus what was in there. There were some things that needed updated to what we would call best practices, lining language within the rules themselves. So this is their verbatim proposal. They've been kind of working through a lot of our kind of foundational documents, contracts and the like to kind of get things to where they should be for standards for municipal government. I think this is kind of our first shot to kind of have you take a look, get your initial feedback, and be able to take that back to do some further review and adjustments if needed. Based on that, if there's nothing tonight, we can bring it back at a later time. Sure. I will answer whatever questions you have tonight.
Yes, Counselor Holmes.
Yeah, so there were just a couple of things that stood out to me that I'd like others to weigh in on. On page 225, on section L, order of business, I do see that public comment on items not on the agenda is dropped to the bottom of the agenda items rather than at the top like we typically have them, which I would prefer if folks come and want to talk, they don't have to sit through all the business, right? So I would suggest that maybe that continue to be up top.
Yeah, we can do that in any order.
Okay.
So they were
but
just
an order-
presenting this as a potential order
Okay,
they see other cities use. I mean, I think you're
okay.
I haven't seen an issue so far. Keeping it up there. We haven't gone over our 30 minutes. I'd like to encourage more people. And maybe by keeping it up there, we will encourage them. Putting it at the end, you don't know what time it can be. And I just think if they know it sooner, they will show up.
Would you put that in like number 5? Move that to that.
We actually have reports of boards and commissioners at the end, right? That's when we do our little report. So I'd almost just flip them unless there's a 12. Yeah, I'd flip those two. Unless anybody has an issue. 13 months that I've been doing it, I think it works well.
Okay.
Yes.
So on page 226, it talks about the process for voting. So section F, it says tie votes shall indicate a denial of the proposal. So in my mind, this language is really geared toward like an adoption of, say, an ordinance or something like that, not so much an appointment. So I'm wondering if there's like a tiebreaker procedure for an appointment, like we'll be filling a new council position or hiring a city manager. We can't just say, oops, it's a tie. We can't, we have to deny it, right? We still have to move on in a process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this addressed a situation where you only had an even number of voting members, right? So like tonight, there's only 6. Think that this would
I think like if we were picking a new counselor though, and it's 3-3, we don't just say it's a denial and we move, you have to, is there just a
do
way
have
to
to have
put that in
majority.
voting for?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Council President.
how it works for council appointments or committee appointments when there's a tie. Susan's prepared with multiple voting ballots and we will continue to vote until there's an agreement in terms of,
And that's in our like bylaws or our charter somewhere that's listed, other than here.
it's a typical practice. for-
however, if there were a resolution or something in a night like this where it's 6 and it's the mayor puts together the agenda with the city manager, it's not against practice for you to put it on the agenda at a different time.
The second clause in there is only for very certain specific things, right? So we'd be talking like land use actions, most primarily. There's not a lot of things that get moved up from a lower city body or commission. The only one we have is planning commission that brings actual items for everything else is recommendation based. Are you wanting that to be more? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a question for Susan too. Wanted that to be more clear process for how ties operate.
I think, yeah, if we maybe have a a practice that's been working, but it's not yet defined in like the municipal code or that I think it's worth kind of memorializing that process.
The 2.04090 is ordinances and resolutions. Like, would you say tie votes for ordinance and resolutions shall indicate a denial of the proposal? Be more specific? Or does that mean,
Mr. Mayor?
yes, Council
We
President?
just suggest sending it back to Ashley and Ashley E2
Yeah.
and see what they have to say on clarification.
That's a clarification on order of business since you started there. We currently have a item for, never mind, see it.
Three twice.
On my
Found it.
Oh, okay.
He answered it.
Yes. Yes.
I will, if anyone else has, please weigh in.
I have a question,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Page 230, 2.04.100, council agenda. B says the city manager may remove any items on the consent agenda, any item of old business, any resolution, or any ordinance placed for first reading from the agenda at any time prior to the time the meeting is convened. The presiding officer shall announce such removal under announcements proclamations. Just moving forward, I would encourage council to remember that if 3 or more counselors would like something on the agenda, then they can ask that it be placed back on. Can sort of trump that removal, what the city manager chooses to remove. There have been discussions in the past, perhaps where a counselor or a previous mayor wanted something removed, but 3 or more have requested that it be back on, and our 3 or more would trump the removal of what the manager does.
I'm hoping that is for like, if you aren't ready, if something comes up and you aren't ready to present, and you're asking to remove it. But like you said, if we believe you're ready or want to, then we would trump that. But I think the intent is because you need some more time.
That's most of the time that'd be used. I like your suggestion. Why don't we under B, just put on there, unless 3 or 4 council members object or request it on here.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Is it, can you just make sure that somewhere in this does say something? I think it's in, it might be in the charter that talks about already 3 or more. That's sort of just an overarching, applies to all the things. I don't know if it needs to go in here or if it's just.
I think it'd be appropriate. I mean, I think in this room right now, we're all acting with good intentions. I think that's the point, but you know, this could stand for 20 years and say that
Lord knows, most of our documents have been that old before.
they have. It's the hard part with these things is you're gonna have to approach them with, you know, assuming the best of intentions of whoever is gonna be using.
It's the
But
same
also
for the council. If we want to remove something at the time of the meeting, we have to vote on it and remove it from the agenda. So you have to have a majority.
I think that generally, you know, for the next time we bring this back, we can do a little bit more of a depth. Standard staff report, going through the steps, walk through.
Yeah.
On B there, though, it is designed for if we're not prepared.
Totally. I wasn't calling you out.
No,
Right.
no. So I think if we, we add into that, I agree though,
Yeah.
that if the council wants it on there, it should go back on.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I like to see, why they made these decisions or they're seeing it in their other cities or their other codes and this is best practices. And it'd just be nice to kind of go through some of them sometimes and
Yeah,
see
and
where does this catch us? Why are we changing this? Where were we wrong in the past?
there's kind of another larger issue too, and we can't really address it right now. So the charter right now requires that your rules be an ordinance. That makes it really difficult to suspend them or change them. One of the recommendations that was made by legal counsel was specifically to move the rules to a resolution, assuming the charter allows that. That would allow for things like simply suspending them with a motion. So if for some reason you needed to do something outside of the normal, something's going on, it would allow you to just pass a motion, suspend the rules, take different actions for a special or emergency situation. Right now, you're kind of locked in. To do anything different, you have to go through an ordinance process. And so, while we can't approach that now, because I know that one of the proposed goals was a charter review, I just wanted to kind of note that, to keep that in mind for the future, that would give you more flexibility as a council to be more proactive about things in certain situations. So we can't, like I said, we can't do it now. I just want to note it since we're talking.
When it talks about appointments of city staff, so the council appoints city manager and the police chief, the attorney. Attorneys?
The judge
The judge.
Judge.
And
and the city attorney, I assume. Usually
Yeah.
those are three that the council appoints.
So whereas reviews, any person appointed by council shall be subject to an annual review by the council. That would be city manager and the attorneys
the judge.
and the judge.
That's controlled by charter. It's who those individuals.
Shall be subject. So is it required that we do a review, annual review?
And it's pretty standard. I mean,
Yeah.
your executive officers like that, you typically want to make sure they're reviewed every year.
It applies only though to permanent city managers.
Well, here's where we can change that. The charter, okay? And the time frame isn't changed at all. I mean, all ordinances normally take 30 days. Unless it's an emergency or tax levy. Okay. Anybody, anything else?
And the intention that if we make those changes, we bring back at the next council meeting for approval.
Just these and then, or there are others that we're gonna look at over time and.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of comments on the versions we had. I think that, when we approached this, we didn't have a staff report. So I think that might be appropriate to address those, kind of discuss a little bit more. This is our norm.
Okay.
If that's okay. I don't think there's anything burning that we would need to do tonight.
Okay. You have enough information? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Wow. On to the calendar. Today is the 20th. We have February 28th, we have appreciation dinner for all our committees, Parks and Rec, EDC, Planning Commission, 6 p.m. at Ixtapa. March 4th, council work session at 6 p.m., followed by the council meeting at 7 p.m. March 14th, Planning Commission at 7 p.m. March 18th, council work session at 6 p.m., city council meeting at 7 p.m. Thursday, March 21st, EDC meeting at noon, followed by Parks and Rec at 6 p.m. Another on March 28th, Planning Commission at 7 p.m. Okay, our updates today, City Manager Larry Lehman, anything you'd like to report?
Yes, I think we is working with this. We sent out requests for headhunters to help us select the city manager. Intention is that those are due March 7th. We'll look at those, present those to you at the next council meeting, hopefully after that, and we can begin the process.
Ready for vacation already?
Yeah. It goes as quick as you want it to, it looks like. Okay.
That's about as fast as we can do, but
Yeah.
the goal would be to have the headhunter working on this at least starting in April.
Great. Appreciate it. Police Department.
Yeah, I just wrote down a couple things just to give you guys some updates. On our training, we have one officer still on schedule to graduate at the end of the March from the police academy. He writes us little weekly memos, how he's doing. Fantastic. So that's good to hear. One of our officers just moved into his final phase of field training. So hopefully if things go as planned, he'll be solo status here in a few weeks. One of our officers just became a defensive tactics instructor. We sent him to training, so we have an in-house instructor who can help not only our officers in-house, but can help regionally train officers from the county, from the other PDs. So it's good to have his knowledge in-house. That's not only, you know, how to fight and do all those things, but it's also on legal updates, right? Making sure that we're good with our use of force, that we're within the best practices and within case law throughout the nation. So it's good to have him here. Our sergeant just got accepted to attend the Metro Sergeants Academy. What that is that's it's put on by the Metro agencies, right? Like when I went through it, we had it at out at the TVF&R training center out in kind of Sherwood, Wallaton area. It was led at that point by the Portland Police Bureau, and it still is. They still have their hands in it, but what it is, it's for new sergeants, and it's a 2-week program. It's only costs us $500. It's in Clackamas this year, and what that's going to do is that's going to give him all the legal updates. It's going to have him get him start thinking about like managing scenes instead of working a scene, because he's a sergeant, not an officer. And it gets him up to date on, you know, pursuits. You know, those are, you know, one of those low frequency, high liability things that, you know, can really, we really want to make sure our guys are squared away on. So he's going to get 2 weeks of pretty intense training with other new sergeants throughout the Portland metro area, which I think is really going to be a benefit to Sergeant Larson. Our lieutenant is scheduled to attend the CIS conference in Salem here in a couple weeks. And so why I'm talking about all this training that we're doing is we've really upped our training here at the PD, both internally and externally, like sending guys out to do this. And that's going to help retain our officers. And it's also going to help attract other recruit and lateral level officers when they see that we take training very importantly at the police department here. Some quick stats for January. We had 89 traffic stops, which is a pretty good number unless you're one of the 89, then it's probably not that great. 276 calls for service. Out of that, they came out with 36 reports and 14 custodies. So not too bad for January. Is typically one of the slower months. You compare this to July, and I'm sure it's going to be a different story. There were only 4 calls between the hours of 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. for Scappoose. And 2 of those were alarms. Officers responded and found the building secure. So it's probably, who knows, could be a high wind or something. And the other 2 were ruled out by CCOM. I don't know what they were, but something typically would be like, oh, there's, you know, a garbage can fell out in the middle of the road. You're not going to wake an officer up in the middle of the night to go remove a garbage can. So things like that, CCOM would typically just rule them out. So not too bad. And then this last section I want to update you on, I didn't know really what to call it. It's things your officers are doing that you may not know about, but I think it's important to share. Or as I like to call it, the TYOADTYMNKABTITIITS. One officer stayed the night in January at the PD because of the snow. And he didn't stay because he couldn't get home. He stayed because he was afraid he wouldn't be able to get back out here and serve the community. And I think that really goes to show kind of the dedication that he has. He's going to stay. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to the police department, but you're not going to want to stay the night there. Trust me. He slept on an old couch up in a room that's not really that warm. But again, he did it because he wanted to make sure that he was here for the following shift. And that's the same officer that got into a snowball fight with kids the next day with another one of our officers. And we found out about that because someone had taken a picture and sent it to us and said, you know, good job. So they're absolutely doing the community service that we not only expect of our officers, but that we really hope that they do. And then finally, this is another thing that is one of those things that we don't advertise, but I think it's important that we recognize. Back in December, of course, you know that there was a murder in town. And the officers, using their own funds, using their own time, put together a care package, essentially, and brought it to the girl of the mother who was killed. And so that just kind of shows you kind of the caliber of men and women you guys have over at the PD, that they're willing to use their own funds to do it. They're, you know, no one ordered them to do it, and use their own time to do it. And they just delivered that here just the other day. So just wanted to give you guys some updates. You have any questions for me about the PD or what's going on over there?
Really appreciate the work you're doing. I do have one. If OSP stops a car, is that count as a traffic stop? One of your 89. I just,
Oh, 89 Scappoose PD stops. OSP probably has 3,000. We only have 89.
just saw one the other day and I was wondering. Any other questions? Mr. Jensen, thank you very much. Appreciate what you're doing. Moving on, Counselor Jacobs.
Counselor Griceland, I want to thank you for your service. In my short time being up here, I've admired your professionalism and how prepared you come to the session and how you have helped all of us along the way. And it's truly going to be missed. And thank you so much and enjoy your next chapter.
Thank you. Sir LaFrenz.
Megan, thank you for your service. As Councilor Jacob said, the very new council, you really helped guide and redirect the conversation sometimes during meetings. And some of my favorite times are at least once a meeting, you have to nudge the mayor as he does something incorrect or off track. And so I really appreciate that. As a fellow educator and parent to little ones, I will work hard, carry your voice forward in this council. And then lastly, I know there's not a boundary around that can do from your service to the city. So I'm sure I look forward to seeing how you're going to be involved.
Counselor LaFrenz. Counselor Holmes.
Yeah, no, I just want to echo those sentiments. You've been a good mentor to the new folks that came on board here, and your dedication is, I mean, unparalleled, really. You give a lot to the city, and I hope, yeah, you can continue to find new ways to do it through the school district and other ways. So thank you and good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Holmes. Counselor Miller.
Well, I think the other counselors have already covered it, but Megan, thank you very much for your service. And like it was said, good luck in your next chapter. And I think we all know that you will continue to stay very engaged with the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's hear from you yourself, Council President Greisen.
Usually type up all this stuff. I'm so prepared, but I was sweating, moving boxes like up until still got more to do. I feel in limbo when I moved out here and quit teaching. Like I lost my identity. I was just at home with babies, and then this gave me an identity. And so now I feel like I'm in limbo again, and I've lost the identity I've had for the last 7-8 years. And so now what do I do? But I'm looking forward to committing to more substitute jobs. I teach first thing in the morning tomorrow, and I'll be able to perhaps maybe go back full time being a classroom teacher. I have enjoyed having a lot of new blood on council. It kind of pulled at my teacher strings, like trying to make sure that everybody understood the role and the job. And so that was really fun for me. A lot of new people this last year. The mayor is killing it, and I'm so proud of you. And I think that you're leading this this council in the right direction. I specifically want to talk to PD for a second. I loved your ABCs, XYZs, IOUs, whatever you just gave. And I want you to keep doing that because I think I make a conscious effort to make meetings with staff and make phone calls with staff, and not everybody always does that. And I think it's important that people are privy to the really great things that are happening in our department. And I know you're an advocate for keeping our department intact as best as we can. And you have a commitment here. You drive an hour every day. You've already retired from that gig, and here you are. There's just something about Scappoose that you just keep coming back to. And I can't thank you enough. And I really hope that you stay strong and firm and keep building up the force, not only in numbers, but in spirit. And I am so thankful that it's you that we have leading the way. Isaac, I'm glad that you're second in charge because you've got a lot going on right now. And thank you, Larry, for listening to what he has to say. And I think that one day you would make an excellent city manager if you chose, but I hope that you don't do that anytime soon. Thank you for being second in command. Dave left. I've had a great relationship with Dave over the years, Public Works Director, and Lori and all the staff that I've been able to work with on the Traffic Safety Committee. Andrew, that's one of the perks of traffic safety is it's actually like a staff meeting. So you get to see them on a different level, which is really great. I just really want you guys to focus on your team agreements and why you're here and how you conduct yourself and see yourself as a team with the staff, not separate. And that's the thing I'm really going to miss. And I miss Alex so much. I talked to her today. Is being a professional these last 7 years has felt really great. And to have a staff that have been my colleagues, my teammates, and I'm really going to miss that, but I will be around. I won't go far. Don't annex me in. I don't want to pay the extra taxes.
Annex.
Yeah, no. And there is no county commissioner or governor, so everybody can just stop with that. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Real quick, I just got word that our girls basketball team won our game tonight, so we go advance to the playoffs. So I was here instead of there, but that's probably why they won.
It was senior.
Senior night, missed it. I'll watch it on tape later tonight. And definitely do want to hit this Grant Watts auction. My wife is a teacher there, and the money they raise really benefits the teachers. She spends a lot of her own money for things, and this kind of helps that. And I hear there's a pretty good house.
Yeah, there's a really great live auction item someone asked you to put up.
If I win, do I actually have to pay to rent my own house? Yes. Okay. Appreciate that. I do really appreciate you, Megan. You did it the right way. I really appreciate how serious you took the unpaid job, how prepared you come, how you keep me to task, how you keep people's feet to the fire, and you do it in a very courteous and professional way. And I think we all looked up to that, and it was good to have you, at least for this year, for especially our newer council, to see how it's done and done the right way. So I really appreciate it. We're going to miss you, but I'm sure we'll definitely, it's a small city and you're not going too far. So I'm sure we'll find something for you to do. Appreciate it. With that, meeting is adjourned.